Hi. Oh, hi. Oh, let's see. I usually wait till about 16 or 17 seconds to get started because that's when my one ghost subscriber comes on. Maybe. Hello. My name's Jared Earl Casey, and it's 7:48 a.m. on Friday. It's Friday, January 15th, 2021. I'm up at my parents' house in Ogden, same as last night. And I I woke up. Well, I went to bed last night. Oh gosh, I guess I could tell you about a little about yesterday. Not my favorite day. I I just kind of stood and walked around, just kind of here in the house. I didn't have much to do, so I did go for a walk through the neighborhood. Um, and it was a nice calm walk. A lot of the houses look like they've been fixed up. Um, there's a few that have been completely redone. They're adding to them or anything. Not that I'm giving a real estate update or anything, but because I'm not. I I it was very quiet and kind of it just still felt really different than what I'm used to being at home. Um, I almost went to see an old friend who's the mom of some people that I went to school with growing up, and I walked by her house and I saw her car. I think it was her car. She always had a Toyota, so there was a Toyota, and then I thought, oh, that's definitely her. And I went to go up, and I thought, oh no, because I used to just go up to their house, um, even in college, and just knock on the door and say hi. There was once when I like knocked on the door and no one came in, so I just walked in. This was a long time ago, but we were just I don't know. I just loved just go showing up and saying hi. But so I thought I should just say hi, and I was like, no, that'd be weird. I don't know what I talked about. And so I started walking away. I'm like, no, I'm gonna go back. And then I thought, no, I'm such a loser. She's going to know what I'm doing with my life, and I'll have to tell her I'm not doing anything with my life still. So I left again, and I walked down by the elementary school, and they're redoing it. It's called Polk Elementary, and they tore down the addition that they built in the 70s. They kept the one that they added in the 90s with the library, but they're completely redoing the whole school, and then they're building a whole new addition. So um, I I had gotten almost to the school, and I was like, no, I'm going to go back. I really want to say hi to her. And then I thought twice again. I'm like, nope, I'm not going to do it. So then I went home. But um, I did think of one of her daughters today. When in the 90s, her and her husband adopted two black children from I think from Detroit, and raised them, and they have a daughter. And I was thinking of her today too, and she came to my mind as Hermione from Harry Potter. And I thought, Hermione, you genie. Which makes me think of the Empress Eugenie and also uh, Jeannie, who's the mom of my best friend or one of my best friends. And it's funny how little things come to us and we tie We don't tie people together, not like with a twist tie or anything like that. I don't know. This twist tie was just laying on the mattress, by the way, and I hate twist ties. People just put twist ties places. It bugs me. So we don't tie people together, but we associate things one with the other with the other. And so that kind of, and sometimes through time and space, we make associations in our mind with people we've met or that we love, places that we've been that we love, or experiences that we've had. And whether we're aware of it or not, we're making these associations in our mind. And we're always kind of associating them and kind of grouping them and putting things together and kind of seeing how they fit or if they fit or what they have in common, and constantly doing this over and over and over again in every moment that we're alive, or even that we aren't alive, that we're up with Heavenly Father, or our awareness is in eternity, or wherever we are, we have our mind is always doing this. It's always making these associations as it goes, and not in a methodical or mathematical way, but in a thoughtful and wonderful way, because we just wonder as we wander through these lives that we live. And sometimes things that we've associated one with the other find themselves coming together through our experience or our wonder. And I think that thinking of my friend's mom and um, some of the social distress that the city of Detroit has has experienced, and Hermione Granger, who's actually a woman of color, and their daughter, and the story of the genie from the lamp, and my best friend's mom, whose name is Jeannie, whose extended family, or whose family is also from Arkansas, or where my family is from, only 10 minutes away in a small town. And all of these things seem to not have anything to do with one another, but in my mind, they seem to come together and they make something, or they're part of something. And that something is supposed to be big and beautiful and wondrous. But sometimes things happen to us that scare us or make us fearful, or people come into our lives that don't understand us, and they try to punish us. Now, these associations that we've made through our journeys are there no matter what. And the same is true for every human being. You can try and rewrite history. You can try and delete someone's past. But you can't take away the experiences that they've had or the love that they've shared. And those will always be out there, which means they're always going to be showing up here and elsewhere. And it's our choice whether we want to lift one another and keep each other's lives and minds in hope and joy and love, or if people choose to come in and be angry or punishing, or want to use fear to control people. Those experiences are still coming together, and they are every moment that we live. And it's our responsibility to ourselves and to one another and to the world to make sure that we're offering one another a life and a world and an environment that is hopeful that is kind and forgiving, to ensure that when these seemingly tiny, insignificant bits of the universe come together, which are really entire universes unto their own, that they're doing so in love and in hope and in joy, that they're doing so in freedom and forgiveness and in faith. So that's just one little thing that happened to me yesterday for a moment that I was thinking about. And not and sometimes when I'm saying and, I say end because there's some part of me somewhere, which isn't even me, that likes to cut in and chop little things of what I've said, right? So I'm saying this video to you streaming live. It's one continuous video. There's no edit, right? There's no cut or splice. This is one take. But still, as I want to say and, a word that brings things together, right? Somebody steps in and wants me to say end. So they can take it and cut it and they can try and splice something else together. But nothing can ever take away this moment that I'm sharing here with myself, or with this camera, or this laptop, or this single viewer that comes in every day. That will never go away. And this interaction, as seemingly isolated or separate or whatever that it is a very true interaction. So when I'm speaking and I get somewhat comfortable in my speech because I'm just sharing and telling a story. And that's such a beautiful way to speak. But we get comfortable, right? We lower our defenses. We allow ourselves to be in that moment. And there's a casual nature to that, right? Somebody who's really well disciplined or super focused can come in and seem to take advantage of our lightheartedness or our casualty. Not casualty, right? Because that means a death, but casualness, right? Isn't English a funny language? It's one of the worst languages there is. But it's the language we grew up with, and we love it, and it's very dear to us. But we have to be very smart about how we choose to use it and the words that we choose. And the moment that we're in and how the words we're using may or may not affect that moment or the people in it. So as I'm saying and all of a sudden end comes out, I have to stop and say and again, just to make it clear that I didn't mean to say end. Someone somewhere wanted me to say end when I meant to say and. And I'm not upset with that person. I'm not angry with that person. I don't think that person's a bad person. But it does affect my ability to speak the way I'm designed to. Right? And we're all children of God, the perfect designer of creation. And we're designed, or we are created, same thing. Okay, just two words for the same thing. It's like saying divine or eternal. Um, so we're all designed to speak freely and openly, to allow ourselves to sit and settle and be in our bodies. And and so when people come in and they're very focused and disciplined to try and take advantage of that, it's like sticking a stick into the spokes of a turning wheel. Now, sometimes the stick breaks, and sometimes the wheel becomes disfigured. Sometimes the whole bicycle turns upside down and the rider is hurt. But in all three of those statements, the focus of what I just told you, where your mind went, was to the tragedy of the stick or the wheel or the rider. And not once do you think of the person who put the stick in the wheel in the first place. And so we have a tendency when telling stories to focus on the tragedies or the victims or the consequences of someone's action that we never even see because it's introduced by someone just saying, when someone sticks a stick in the wheel, now someone right now is thinking, oh, so you're the one who sticks the stick in the wheel because you're telling this story about how someone stuck a stick in the wheel. And you brought our mind to these consequences. But it's difficult because I'm using the analogy of a stick and a wheel and a rider on a bicycle. Because at worst, if somebody out there in creation is truly affected by me telling this story and the worst thing happens, a stick might break or a wheel might become disfigured, or at worst, which would be terrible, someone riding a bicycle might fall and get hurt. But this story is theoretical. It's not theoretical. It's something I just came up with as an example. I haven't stuck a stick in anyone's wheel. And by that I mean a moving bicycle with a stick, right? Yeah. So if that has actually happened, if somebody out there, because if the effect were coming from my telling this story, there would actually be no stick, because I wouldn't be there to stick the stick in the wheel. So the stick is safe. If someone's very affected by my telling this story in the mind, there would be no stick going in the wheel. Either the wheel would just become disfigured, or the bicycle would turn upside down and the rider could get hurt. So if that's actually happened, which I believe it has somewhere, and I don't mean the no stick theory. I mean where someone has actually stuck a stick in someone's wheel and either the stick, the wheel, or the rider have gotten hurt. Then even through the course of this several minutes that we've been talking about this, we still haven't discussed who in time and space, in this case of a stick or a wheel or a rider being hurt, is the person or being who's chosen to stick the stick in the wheel. So I guess this is an example of speaking a lot about something and bringing concepts to light and helping people think about things without ever actually talking about what's happened and who chose to do it. Now, I just made up a story about someone sticking a stick in a wheel. So if that's happened out there somewhere, I don't know anything about that. I can't be called as a witness to witness against this person, whoever that is, sticking a stick in a wheel and someone getting hurt. But I guess what I'm trying to say is it's important to speak about what's going on in our lives and what's been going on when people get hurt or property is damaged or a piece of nature is split in half when it should have been maintained as whole. Um, but you can't stop the discussion there. You have to bring to light whoever chose to take that piece of nature and put it into something, knowing that it would probably be split in half, and that property and even human life might be damaged. And when you bring that up, it's not just to find fault or to blame someone or to bring punishment upon them. It's because that's an essential or critical or crucial part of the story. And once that's brought to light, it's also important to examine why that person chose to stick the stick in the wheel at all or in the first place. What knowing, not wondering like a scientific experiment, which even then there can be a lot of danger in doing those things because that's why we have an advanced or developed mind as a human species. We can theorize that, hey, here's something that's moving, it's going at a certain rate. Here's something that can be inserted into there. It's just a stick from a tree. Um, that has a certain amount of dryness as far as how much water. Um, it's a certain thickness. It's a certain strength. It's a certain type of wood, right? We know that this type of wood is stronger. So you can know all of these things, and you can say, so here's this moving. Here's the stick. If we were to stick this in, we can calculate what would happen, and the stick doesn't have to break. The wheel doesn't have to risk being misfigured, and the rider doesn't have to get hurt. They can just keep going on their way, and everything is perfect. So so you can't use science as an excuse to just go take those risks and risk splitting a piece of nature in half or damaging property or hurting human life. Because it can all be done with calculations. You don't have to see, you can just know. This is what will happen. Or there's this range of possibilities, but they're all pretty much categorized as destructive rather than creative. So whether it's this, or this, which it could be any of them, we don't even need to know because it's destructive. And our purpose here is to be creative and to sustain or conserve that which is creative or created, which is life. So even if there's more than one calculated possibility, it's all the same because it's destructive. And so it's discarded, and you don't do it. Now, whoever this person is that chose to put this stick in this wheel, can't use scientific inquiry as an excuse to do that. So now we know this person would have had to actually want to hurt someone. And so we go, okay, why would someone want to hurt someone? So you have people who, now you do have people that they might have a stick, and I'm literally talking about like a stick. Let's say this twist tie is a stick. I can't stress that enough. It's probably not the best analogy, but it's the one I started with. So, um, so they're just, you know, thinking you're just maybe like, hey, I'm flying around on a stick. Do do do, but they don't see the bicycle. They don't know that there's a bicycle there, and they're flying around on the stick, and it goes through the bicycle. The stick isn't broken because the rider isn't aware of the bicycle. So the stick is part of the rider. They're on the same plane. Now, if the stick were by itself, the stick would be aware of the bicycle. Okay, which means the stick could break and the bicycle could turn over. But with the rider who's not aware of the bicycle, the stick becomes part of the rider. So the stick now is not aware of the bicycle. By itself, it would be. With the rider, it's not. So both the stick and the rider go through the bicycle. Now the bicycle and the rider are completely destroyed. So if somebody is allowed to ride around on a stick, flying through the air, they need to be made aware of everything that's also there. Now, of course, they would have no idea of that. So, but there are people who are aware that sometimes there are things that are there that don't seem to be there. We don't perceive, we're not able to see them with our eyes, and we don't know they're there. So we just go through our life. We just live our life. So the people who are aware that there are things there need to let people know, hey, there's something there. You can't fly around on your stick in this area, because if you do, you might hurt someone. And I know that sounds crazy, right? Because you look and you're like, there's nothing there. But there's something there. And so you can't, that's a no fly around on your stick zone. Now, for me, this last 12 months, I've been coming into, and we've spoken about this, an expanded psychic awareness. And I've begun to start to perceive shapes and feelings. And we've talked, I'm like, there's a ghost in my room, or an apparition, or a spirit, or someone in another dimension. There's something here. There's someone here. They're touching me. I tell them to get off. But I don't. We'll talk about that. I don't know what to do. So I'm starting to become aware that there are things or people or something here, but not here, right? And I suspect that there might be people out there somewhere who know that they're there, who aren't telling us. Now, someone wanted to say, what if the rider wasn't on a stick, right? And they're not aware. The rider usually, let's say they could just fly through air without a stick, right? They could just do it on their own. And they could fly through. They would go right through the bicycle and the rider. And neither one would be aware of the other except for maybe a feeling or something. Now, and that's, I think, because both of them are very strong in their own seemingly separate realities. So they're both of their awareness and their faith and belief in their awareness is deeply rooted. And so they can just go right through one another. Now, if someone is very weak in their belief in their reality, and they're just weak, they aren't well nourished or maintained, they don't have much, then if that person were just barely given a bicycle and learned to ride, and they're riding their bicycle to work, and they're very fragile, but they've just got their first bicycle and they're so excited to go to work. And this person who just likes flying through the air, right? Because they're cool and they can do that, flies through the air, they might still obliterate the person on the bicycle, who's no better or worse than they are. They're just trying to go to work on their new bicycle because they finally got a good job and they finally have hope to bring home money to feed their family. And some of you just want to fly around in the air and look cool. So these are all theories. And what I'm speaking of is, as I spoke of this psychic awareness that I've been coming into, I guess, over the last, actually over the last several years, but I was in active addiction. So I just thought it was the drug. So it's only this last year that I've really come to understand, okay, I think it's not the drug, or that I even used to be a drug addict, or that I fried my brain or anything. I think this is actually part of my human experience now. I think it's real, right? But I don't know what to do, and I've looked online for a psychic resource 1-800 number, just help for psychics to find help. I've asked people in the modern medicine field who pretty much flatly deny it. People in mental health, people who know psychics. Now, what I've neglected to do, I did go to a website called peoplewhohearvoices.com. But by that point, I'd grown very leery or weary of trusting what I could find online. Because online is it can be a very dangerous place. And I think sometimes people put a lot of misinformation out there, especially for people like me, psychics or emerging psychics, to lead them in the wrong direction. The only thing I did think about calling a psychic that I knew in Arizona, that I went to once, but I did trust, because she does readings over the phone. But this year, phone contact has been less than stellar. And I can't really afford just to go down to Prescott and go see a psychic I saw 10 years ago for maybe a half hour or an hour and see what guidance she can give me. So instead, I've been calling out in my mind for help. I've also been asking for help in person, but I've also been calling out in my mind because in my understanding is that I is that people can hear my thoughts in my mind, that they're aware that I'm going through this and that they're choosing not to respond for various reasons. They don't like me, they don't think I deserve help, or that I'm not good enough for help. Or they want to punish me instead, or that they don't have the time, it's not worth their time, um, that they'd help me, but then there would be a price that I can't pay, and or just that they'd rather take my thoughts and call them as their own, or name them their own, or pretend that they're thoughts that they can own, when really inspired thought belongs to the Holy Spirit. And it's shared with us and then shared with you. But it's not owned by anyone. It belongs to Spirit. It's inspired. It's helpful information for where the human race seems to find itself right now. But if people try to own other people's thoughts, even if it's through a piece of paper, then they are driving a stick into the circle of life, which is an ever moving, ever flowing circle of life. Of creation. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I know that something's going on in this world, on this planet, in this life, that isn't good. I can hear the screams in my mind, but I don't know what to do. I called the police when I was in Midvale, said, "Hey, I hear screams. I know it sounds crazy. I've heard them for a while, but I look around, I can't find where they're coming from. It sounds like they're coming from under the ground, but I mean, I wouldn't know if there were anything under the ground. You know, I just live in an apartment, um, but I don't have anything material or any solid evidence to provide you. I just hear something and I think something's going on." And I asked, "Do you have a certified psychic that you work with as the police department that can come and confirm or deny that, to see if you could, you know, if there's something going on, I'd like someone to try and do something about it." But he said no, and so there's nothing I can do about it. Well, I told him, okay, well, if there's any real suspicious or evidence, or if I see something happening, then I'll call you again. But until then, I guess I just have to hear screaming. And that's more and more become the world or dimension that I live in or that I walk through. And it's very concerning and frustrating because we're here to help save the world, to bring it to light and joy and peace and abundance and justice and equality, grace and graciousness. But instead, I think because people don't like me, or they don't think I'm good enough, or I'm not good looking enough, or smart enough, or they just need someone to blame. I'm here still waiting for help. I'm looking for a job in a dimension that I don't trust, where everybody acts kind of suspiciously, and where I hear screaming and my body hurts sometimes. And there are ghosts or apparitions or spirits in the rooms that just walk up and do what they want. They just touch me. They just say things, and I can't do anything about it. And I know that some people say that that's still a very safe and blessed existence because that's how terrible some people's lives have become. But someone, someone's like, that's at a weird angle. Isn't that funny how that goes? Um, College of Design is what it says. Someone wanted to know what that said. Oh, anyways, I woke up at 12:47, I think, this morning, and there was a lot of speaking between parties, and by parties I mean different groups of people that um, or collections of people. I don't want to say collections, that's a weird word. Just a number of people that are of the same tradition or faith or belief or place, society. So each of these different, but they all have a interest in something. So they're different parties. Um, all these different parties were speaking and explaining things to one another, um, trying to reach a resolution to bring peace and rest and hope and comfort and blessing to, I think, some of the people that we've all been hearing screaming. Um, and I think they made progress, but I needed to go back to sleep and get more rest. And I couldn't fall asleep. I've actually been laying in this bed, tossing back and forth, trying to go back to sleep since that time. And someone says it's because I'm being tortured somewhere else. And that when I go to lay down to sleep, they stop torturing me so I can sleep. But once I wake up, they start doing it again so that I can't go back to sleep. Now, rest and sleep are very important in this life. I don't want to say especially for me, but for me. And someone explained that, well, if he's being tortured, wouldn't he hear himself scream? Or that's what they asked. And the reply was, no, if he heard himself screaming, it would be very loud because he's obviously very deeply connected to himself. Um, and he would not be able to live this life the way he's supposed to, which is hopefully in hope and love and joy and comfort and healing and blessing. Because that's what I'm here to share. Um, so I don't hear myself scream, but I'm told that there are a lot of people who do. So I'm hoping still that this world might find a way to come together and bring people to peace and rest and joy and comfort and hope. And that we be allowed to share those energies and those feelings and those messages, those ideas, and that truth, because hope, joy, healing, peace, abundance, those are all part of truth. They're all part of what's real or what leads to reality, which is a pure and perfect love, a perfect state of existence called eternity. So I hope that we all are allowed to start experiencing those things and not to be selfish, though who doesn't want to experience those things? And those things should come natural and be part of the environment and experience of every single sentient being, of every single child of God, of every single person or human or world. So you shouldn't look upon people, perfectly good people, and say they don't deserve to be happy or to be comfortable or to experience joy or be safe or to receive blessings. Because not only do we all deserve it, it's that's God's plan that we all experience those things. Now, some people would say, okay, well, what if your blessing is um, um, what if what if you have a blessing available to you and it's, um, you can create a flame with your hand, let's say, like they do on television. Well, if we aren't supposed to stay in the way of people receiving blessings, then what if a bad person gets that and then they start hurting people, right? So we have to stay in the way of people getting blessings, and then we have to determine if someone's good or bad and what they'll do. So that's something that people think, and that makes sense, right? So I think that blessings come from heaven. They're part of your inheritance, of your natural inheritance from the kingdom of heaven. So a blessing of being able to do that would never be available to someone who isn't ready to receive that blessing properly. So if there's someone out there who can do that, it's not really a blessing. It's humans interceding or interjecting themselves into God's plan, which they are all part of God's plan, and giving someone who's not ready for that ability, and then just calling it a blessing. So I think that which is disturbing enough. And then to deny people their inheritances is even more disturbing. And the two mistakes together certainly do not make a right. Sorry. I'm an 11, so I'm also a messenger. So this is all coming through me. It's also me speaking. I'm standing there with the people saying these things. But sometimes you can hear, I think, certain people step in and answer. So it's part of this discussion I'm having with you, and it's part of a different discussion where they're giving that answer in real time, just as I'm also sharing it with you, if that makes sense. So, anyways, so I believe there's a lot going on in the world. And I remember my aunt asked me once if there was a movie for my autobiography, what it would be called. And my first answer, which was the first thing I ever thought of when that thought came to my mind several years ago, was Kept in the Dark. Now, I think hopefully there aren't those people out there who think that, well, if that's his movie name, then that's what has to happen. Because what that answer tells you is what I feel like I've been experiencing up until I gave you that answer. It's not a sentence or a path. It's not what has to happen for the rest of someone's life. It's how they feel about how they were what they were experiencing at the point in time that they gave you that answer. So when I told her that, what I was telling her was, I feel like I'm being kept in the dark. Like people aren't telling me the truth. Like they're keeping me separate. Um, like they're not allowing me to step into my light, which some people argue only you can do that no matter what your situation is. It's your choice and your responsibility to step into your light. And so there is a tiny possibility of that happening in certain environments and situations. But once again, it's our responsibility to one another to try and do everything we can to provide an environment that's more conducive to people stepping in their light. So actively trying to keep someone in the dark is not conducive to them stepping into their light, because those are not the same thing. It's not that it's impossible, but it's not a good intention. It's very disingenuous, and it's actually very harmful and destructive. It's the opposite of God's plan. But I feel like I'm still being kept in the dark, held out as other, as not worthy, or as not good enough. Good enough. And we're all inherently worthy. Because our worth is inherent. We are inherently valuable, and so is every single person on this earth. Anyways, I'm going to. Oh, right. It's right here. Chapter 13, The Guiltless World. Section 6, Finding the Present. To perceive truly is to be aware of all reality through the awareness of your own. But for this, no illusions can rise to meet your sight. For reality leaves no room for any error. This means that you perceive a brother only as you see him now. His past has no reality in the present, so you cannot see it. Your past reactions to him are also not there. And if it is to them that you react, you see but an image of him that you made and cherish instead of him. In your questioning of illusions, ask yourself if it is really sane to perceive what was as now. If you remember the past as you look upon your brother, you will be unable to perceive the reality that is now. You consider it natural to use your past experience as the reference point from which to judge the present. Yet, this is unnatural because it is delusional. When you have learned to look on everyone with no reference at all to the past, either his or yours as you perceived it, you will be able to learn from what you see now. For the past can cast no shadow to darken the present unless you are afraid of light. And only if you are would you choose to bring darkness with you, and by holding it in your mind, see it as a dark cloud that shrouds your brothers and conceals their reality from your sight. This darkness is in you. The Christ, as revealed to you now, has no past, for he is changeless, and in his changelessness lies your release. For if he is as he was created, there is no guilt in him. No cloud of guilt has risen to obscure him, and he stands revealed in everyone you meet, because you see him through himself. To be born again is to let the past go, and look without condemnation upon the present. The cloud that obscures God's Son to you is the past. And if you would have it past and gone, you must not see it now. If you see it now in your illusions, it has not gone from you, although it is not there. Time can release as well as imprison, depending on whose interpretation of it you use. Past, present, and future are not continuous unless you force continuity on them. You can perceive them as continuous and make them so for you. But do not be deceived and then believe that this is how it is. For to believe reality is what you would have it be according to your use, for it is delusional. You would destroy time's continuity by breaking it into past, present, and future for your own purposes. You would anticipate the future on the basis of your past experience and plan for it accordingly. Yet by doing so, you are aligning past and future and not allowing the miracle, which could intervene between them, to free you to be born again. The miracle enables you to see your brother without his past, and so perceive him as born again. His errors are all past, and by perceiving him without them, you are releasing him. And since his past is yours, you share in this release. Let no dark cloud out of your past obscure him from you. For truth lies only in the present, and you will find it if you seek it there. You have looked for it where it is not, and therefore have not found it. Learn then to seek it where it is, and it will dawn on eyes that see. Your past was made in anger, and if you use it to attack the present, you will not see the freedom that the present holds. Judgment and condemnation are behind you. And unless you bring them with you, you will see that you are free of them. Look lovingly upon the present, for it holds only things that are forever true. All healing lies within it because its continuity is real. It extends to all aspects of the sonship at the same time, and thus enables them to reach each other. The present is before, and thus enables them to reach. Oh, I'm sorry. The present is before time was, and will be when time is no more. In it are all things that are eternal, and they are one. Their continuity is timeless, and their communication is unbroken, for they are not separated by the past. Only the past can separate, and it is nowhere. The present offers you your brothers in the light that would unite you with them and free you from the past. Would you then hold the past against them? For if you do, you are choosing to remain in the darkness that is not there, and refusing to accept the light that is offered you. For the light of perfect vision is freely given as freely as it is freely received, and can be accepted only without limit. In this one still dimension of time that does not change, and where there is no sight of what you were, you look at Christ and call his witnesses to shine on you because you called them forth. And they will not deny the truth in you because you looked for it in them and found it there. Now is the time of salvation, for now is the release from time. Reach out to all your brothers and touch them with the touch of Christ. In timeless union with them is your continuity, unbroken because it is wholly shared. God's guiltless Son is only light. There is no darkness in him anywhere, for he is whole. Call all your brothers to witness to his wholeness, as I am calling you to join with me. Each voice has a part in the song of redemption, the hymn of gladness and thanksgiving for the light to the Creator of light. The holy light that shines forth from God's Son is the witness that his light is of his Father. Shine on your brothers in remembrance of your Creator, for you will remember him as you call forth the witnesses to his creation. Those whom you heal bear witness to your healing, for in their wholeness you will see your own. And as your hymns of praise and gladness rise to your Creator, he will return your thanks in his clear answer to your call. For it can never be that his Son called upon him and remained unanswered. His call to you is but your call to him, and in him you are answered by his peace. Child of light, you know not that the light is in you. Yet you will find it through its witnesses, for having given light to them, they will return it. Each one you see in light brings your light closer to your awareness. Love always leads to love. The sick who ask for love are grateful for it, and in their joy they shine with holy thanks. And this they offer you who gave them joy. They are your guides to joy, for having received it of you, they would keep it. You have established them as guides to peace, for you have made it manifest in them. And seeing it, its beauty calls you home. Someone just took apart the word manifest. So, sorry. No, it wasn't me. I'm just saying sorry that I took a moment to. This is a very crazy world. There is a light that this world cannot give, yet you can give it as it was given you. And as you give it, it shines forth to call you from the world and follow it. For this light will attract you as nothing in this world can do. And you will lay aside the world and find another. This other world is bright with love which you have given it. And here will everything remind you of your Father and his Holy Son. Light is unlimited and spreads across this world in quiet joy. And those you brought with you will shine on you, and you will shine on them in gratitude because they brought you here. Your light will join with theirs in power so compelling that it will draw the others out of darkness as you look on them. Awaking unto Christ is following the laws of love of your free will, and out of quiet recognition of the truth in them. The attraction of light must draw you willingly, and willingness is signified by giving. Those who accept love of you become your willing witnesses to the love you gave them, and it is they who hold it out to you. In sleep you are alone, and your awareness is narrowed to yourself. And that is why the nightmares come. You dream of isolation because your eyes are closed. You do not see your brothers, and in the darkness you cannot look upon the light you gave to them. And yet the laws of love are not suspended, because you sleep. And you have followed them through all your nightmares, and have been faithful in your giving, for you were not alone. Even in sleep, Christ has protected you, ensuring the real world for you when you awake. In your name, he has given for you and given you the gifts he gave. God's Son is still as loving as his Father. Continuous with his Father, he has no past apart from him. So he has never ceased to be his Father's witness and his own. Although he slept, Christ's vision did not leave him. And so it is that he can call unto himself the witnesses that teach him that he never slept. Well, it's so interesting to read this because for part of it, it seems relevant to what I'm experiencing and what I think the world might be experiencing. But the other part doesn't seem to be true. At least I think. So that brings us to another. People keep saying I need an awakening text. So I chose to read from the course because I've just never read through the whole thing, and I thought it would be interesting to share. I feel like it's not considered enough because its teachings are generally universal, and it's not historic record because sometimes people get obsessed with some of the historic record stories of the Bible and the Book of Mormon. And when they're obsessed with them, they start to replay. They keep happening because this mind, Christian mind or LDS mind or Muslim mind, for some reason, there's this story or this story that they just can't let go of. And so they keep replaying through their lives and through their stories. And then those stories come together. It just can be a big mess. So I thought, well, I'm going to do this because it's not historic record. It doesn't have these stories that keep happening. It's just trying to bring people to the light, it's trying to get them to choose the mind of God. But as I read this, and I don't know if it's just me not fully understanding or me just needing more time, because as he mentioned, time can be used to either heal or imprison. And so, of course, as we seem to exist in time, or we believe ourselves to exist in time, we'll always want to choose it to be for healing, right? Not for imprisonment, because that just means more imprisonment. You're just energizing imprisonment. So that's going to be your story. And it's not going to be your story because you can always change your mind. Okay, so I don't want people to feel like, oh no, I'm trapped because I chose imprisonment or someone else chose imprisonment or I'm trying to imprison someone else. But don't do that. Right. So every moment you can change your mind to use time for healing. But there are other things where I'm like, okay, like here he said, everything will remind you of your Father and his Holy Son, but holy has a lowercase h. So I thought, that's strange. That's not how it should be. So sometimes I'm like, I think maybe this might even be what's called an awakening text. So you have the original text, which can be restored. So sometimes there's the restored text, which are the same, but usually a restored text has the original text and a restored version, which is the same. It tells the same thing, but it's made more clear for the person that it's been restored to, so that it considers their journey. And I don't want to say person, I mean people or world. And it says, it brings them, so you have the original version that they were given, you have the restored version, which is the exact same thing, but it tells it even more clearly considering where their mind is. That makes sense. So this is called, I think, because I'm noticing little changes here that aren't consistent with the true message of this book, an awakening version, which means it's adapting to my experience or my mind, trying to the book is quite possibly meant to not, it might have a spell on it, someone says, which wouldn't mean that I have a spell on me or that you'd have a spell on it from reading it. It's the actual book. Okay, so the spell can't be spread unless you don't know how to read. So sometimes if you have an awakening book, which has a spell on it, so it can change based on the reader and what they're going through. If you just read it and take it completely literal for what it is, it can manipulate your life or your mind. But if you know how to read, you'll go, oh, okay, well, that part's not true. Or that part is changed, right? Or that part is trying to lead my mind here, which I can say, okay, it's either trying to control or manipulate me, or it's just trying to lead my mind there. So I can go, that's not right. And I can use my mind to go back to the truth. I can go, okay, well, I'm just going to discard that part as an awakening mistake. Or I'm going to go, okay, well, thank you for bringing to my light that someone out there wants my mind to go here and to reject it and to come back to the truth. So now I've rejected this mistruth. But as I mentioned with the one at my apartment, remember I was saying, I think this version's changed. I think it's changed. So I had to put it down. And I thought, okay, well, I'll only read from the one at my parents' house. Well, now I'm noticing that this one's also changed. So now I have two awakening versions of A Course in Miracles, and I have a choice. I can either stop reading it, which I think is why sometimes people put spells on books, because they don't want you to read them. So you can go, okay, well, I have an awakening version, which is neither here nor there. It's not good or bad, but it presents a new challenge. And those of us that are placed in these places are used to those kinds of challenges. But it certainly doesn't offer a level playing field. It's just another way for people to try and manipulate you or make you look a certain way or get ahead while you are presented with roadblocks or things like that to make you look less than, or to say, see, that person's not even good. Look how slow they are. Look, they've got this. That's scary. They're a bad person. So this isn't scary. We can still read the truth through this. And that's how the Holy Spirit would have us read. So there are parts where you just go, okay, well, that part's just not true. But there was certainly still truth in this section. And I have to choose to probably I don't have to choose to keep reading it, but I probably will. And I'll just do the best I can. But this awakening version of this book certainly isn't my awakening text. So, first of all, you don't have to have an awakening text. It's something people just made up. Second of all, if you choose an awakening text, that just means it's the book that you're going to try and live by while you're awakening. It doesn't mean that that book is going to be an awakening version of that book or text. So it's just another way that that this whole process is very disappointing and very concerning. That I, during my awakening, chose to kind of focus on the Course in Miracles. So you could say that that was my choice as my awakening text, but that somebody who doesn't have the best intent chose to interpret that as, oh, so now we can make his text an awakening version, so that he doesn't even get a real or true copy of his own text, not his own text, I'm going to say, but of the text that he chose to focus on while he was awakening. So that's concerning. I don't have here the original nor the restored version of this text. But we have to work with what we've got, and so we're going to keep reading it. And that's not bad or evil. It's just all we can do. So I invite you, as you read, sometimes people do this with the Bible or the Book of Mormon or the Quran. I don't know much about the Torah. I don't know much, but just read the truth in it. Know the truth. So the truth is, you are light, love, and joy, that God loves you perfectly, that he sees you as perfect, and he sees you through time and space. He sees past time and space. He sees you as he created you, and that you are perfect to him, always and forever, and that the kingdom of heaven is your natural inheritance. Okay, that's truth. So as you read scripture or inspired texts, or even just the world you're in, hold on to that truth when you see it. Grow that truth. Water that truth. Build that truth. Share that truth. Because it's all part of the one truth. It's true. God loves you. God is love. You are love. You are joy. You are peace. And as we keep remembering that for ourselves and for one another, we're brought closer to him. All right, I'm going to get up now. But I love you. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.